In this training, you will learn about the Accessibility for Ontarians with Disabilities Act. This training course will review the purpose of accessibility legislation, including specific customer service requirements, examine different types of disabilities and the assistive devices that can provide aid for certain disabilities, examine barriers in different environments and how you can help to lessen those barriers for persons with disabilities, explore ways to improve customer service for persons with disabilities, and help you to improve essential customer service skills. The Accessibility for Ontarians with Disability Act, or AODA, was passed in 2005. Its purpose is to achieve a fully accessible Ontario. This means breaking down barriers and obstacles that keep people with disabilities from easily managing basic activities, such as getting groceries or integrating into the workforce. The AODA has developed accessibility standards which apply to both the public and private sectors. These standards include areas such as customer service and employment, information and communication, transportation, and the design of public spaces. As of 2015, the Government of Ontario estimates that 1 in 7 people are living with a disability in Ontario. Additionally, the Government of Ontario forecasts that the number of Ontarians with a disability will increase over the next 20 years as the population ages. That is why it is so important to take steps today to plan for the future and ensure that every member of society has the opportunity to fully participate now and in the years ahead. As per the Ontario Human Rights Code and the AODA, the term disability is defined as follows. A. Any degree of physical disability, infirmity, malformation, or disfigurement that is caused by bodily injury, birth defect, or illness, and without limiting the generality of the foregoing, includes diabetes mellitus, epilepsy, a brain injury, any degree of paralysis, amputation, lack of physical coordination, blindness or visual impediment, deafness or hearing impediment, muteness or speech impediment, or physical reliance on a guide dog or other animal, or on a wheelchair or other remedial appliance or device. B. A condition of mental impairment or a developmental disability. C. A learning disability or a dysfunction in one or more of the processes involved in understanding or using symbols or spoken language. D. A mental disorder. E. An injury or disability for which benefits were claimed or received under the insurance plan established under the Workplace Safety and Insurance Act of 1997. The intent of the customer service standards is to provide easy access to goods and services for persons with disabilities through increased awareness. Employers and employees must understand that customers with disabilities may have different needs, and business practices must recognize ways to make goods and services available to all customers, including those with disabilities. Businesses and organizations that have 1 or more employees in Ontario and provide goods and services either directly to the public or to other organizations must comply with this legislation. Private shops and restaurants, as well as non-profit organizations such as churches and other places of worship, fall into this category. All public sector organizations must also comply, including municipalities, hospitals, provincial agencies, and colleges and universities, just to name a few. Companies and owners may face significant monetary penalties if they fail to appropriately implement any of the AODA requirements. The AODA has the following employer requirements for accessible customer service. Employers must create and maintain accessible customer service policies, procedures, and practices, provide staff training, create a feedback method for customers, arrange for alternate communication methods, and provide appropriate notice of service disruptions. Accessibility standards promote positive customer service for persons with disabilities based on principles of dignity, independence, integration, and equal opportunity. As such, accessible customer service means creating a positive customer service atmosphere for persons with disabilities by respecting their dignity and independence, ensuring an opportunity equal to that given to other customers to obtain and use goods and services, and allowing persons with disabilities to benefit from the same services in the same place and in a similar way to other customers. We will discuss these principles in more detail in the section on essential customer service skills. Based on these principles, it is important to use the proper terminology when referring to individuals with disabilities and when discussing types of disabilities. When referring to someone with a disability, it is extremely important that you put the person first and not address or identify them by the disability. For example, it would be inappropriate to refer to a person as handicapped, but you can use the term person with a physical disability. It would be inappropriate to use the term deaf person, but depending on the severity of the hearing loss, you could use the term a person who is deaf. It would also be inappropriate to say blind person. Rather, use a person with vision loss. Always show respect for the person first when addressing a disability. The purpose of accessibility legislation is to remove barriers. Barriers are obstacles that make it difficult or sometimes impossible for persons with disabilities to carry out everyday activities such as shopping, going to work, or enjoying time out with friends and family. Barriers can be physical or architectural, information or communication-based, attitudinal, technological, or organizational, such as policy or practice. Examples of physical or architectural barriers include aisles that are too tight or cluttered for a person in a wheelchair to maneuver, poor lighting that makes it difficult for a person with limited vision to see, telephones that are not equipped with devices to assist persons with hearing loss, and websites that are not compatible with accessibility features for persons with a disability. Not all persons can understand information in the same way. It is important to address information and communication barriers that may make it difficult for persons with disabilities to read information due to the small or fine print, read or understand signs or directions, or access websites if the person is unable to use the mouse to navigate through the pages. Unfortunately, discrimination is still a barrier that makes it difficult for persons with disabilities to fully integrate into society. Attitudinal barriers are present in our society even if we may not realize it. You should not feel sorry for or look down on persons with disabilities. Instead, work on expressing a genuine interest in helping each customer, demonstrating patience and offering assistance. Persons with disabilities may face challenges with using certain tools, such as the telephone and internet, to access goods and services. These are known as technological barriers. There are many assistive devices that these individuals can use, but businesses must also support the devices to accommodate their customers. For example, corporate websites should support screen reading software, and online training should offer closed caption options. As stated earlier, discrimination is a barrier for persons with disabilities. It can serve as an organizational barrier in addition to being an attitudinal barrier. Although discrimination may happen without intent, it is nonetheless discrimination, and organizations must ensure that their policies, practices, and procedures focus on treating everyone fairly. Adapting organizational practices is not only required by the legislation, it is also the right thing to do to ensure you serve all customers equally. Everyone has strengths and weaknesses in the workplace, regardless of ability. Unfortunately, some people may make the mistake of assuming a person's disability will negatively impact their ability to perform a job, even if a disability can be mediated through appropriate accommodation. This is not to say that every person with a disability will need accommodation. Rather, employers risk making poor hiring decisions based on their own assumptions of a person's abilities, when in fact that person may possess the exact skills and competencies the organization is looking for. Customers with disabilities may have different needs. It is important to determine those needs in a way that allows the person to keep their independence and dignity intact. Don't assume what a customer needs, but ask how you can help and wait patiently for the person to tell you. As an employer, you need to ensure your staff members are trained on how to handle different situations, so they are ready to assist all customers. As an employee, you are responsible for learning how to act in different situations to enhance customer service. Together, we can improve the lives of all Ontarians. We've reached our first question. Employers are required to A. Create and maintain accessible customer service policies, procedures, and practices. B. Provide staff training. C. Create a feedback method for customers. D. Arrange for alternate communication methods. E. Provide notice of service disruptions. Or F. All of the above. The correct answer is F. All of the above. Under the terms of the AODA, employers are required to create and maintain accessible customer service policies, procedures, and practices, provide staff training, create a feedback method, arrange for alternate communication methods, and provide notices of service disruptions. Let's move on to the next section, Understanding Disabilities. In this section, you will learn how to assist and communicate with individuals with different types of disabilities, tips for increasing customer service levels, especially for individuals with disabilities, and ways to offer assistance while allowing individuals to maintain their dignity and independence. Does your typical day include going to work, a trip to the grocery store, dinner and a movie with friends, or going out for an evening jog? What would happen if you woke up tomorrow and could no longer see to drive yourself to work? You could no longer hear to enjoy that movie at the theater, or you were suddenly required to use a wheelchair, so you were unable to go for that daily run. How would your life change? For many people, disabilities present obstacles to daily living that most of us take for granted. One of the key aspects of accessibility legislation is to change the way society thinks about individuals with disabilities. Those with disabilities continue to have the same goals, ambitions, and needs as those without disabilities. Let's explore some types of disabilities to help broaden your understanding. When some people hear the word disability, they think of physical disabilities, such as an individual who uses a wheelchair. In fact, there are numerous other disabilities, including many that are invisible or episodic, and disabilities can vary in degree and seriousness. Regardless of the severity of the disability, the many types can be summarized in this list: vision, hearing, deaf-blind, physical, speech or language, mental health, intellectual, and developmental or learning. There are different types of vision disabilities that can reduce a person's ability to see clearly. Some people may experience reduced side vision or a lack of central vision, meaning they cannot see straight ahead, but very few people are completely blind. Depending on the severity of the vision loss, you may or may not be able to identify a person with limited vision. Some may require the assistance of a service animal or use a white cane, but others may not show any signs of their limitations. A person with limited vision may have difficulty reading, navigating unfamiliar places, and/or trouble with depth perception. This is why it is so critical to ensure that hazards are removed, such as clearing aisleways, removing snow from public sidewalks, and ensuring that all stairwells are equipped with safety rails. Persons with vision disabilities may need assistance with finding a product or service, reading labels, and understanding directions. However, you should never assume a customer needs or wants your help. In keeping with the core principle of independence, treat the customer as you would treat any other customer. Ask if and how you may help them. Some barriers individuals with vision disabilities may face include not being able to maneuver tight spaces or stairwells, needing additional time to recognize changes to the environment, such as the movement of goods and services, a harder time recognizing customer service personnel that travel throughout the store, and difficulties understanding someone pointing or motioning in a general direction without providing clear instructions. Types of assistive devices your customers with vision disabilities might use or need would include a white cane, which is a lightweight cane that can indicate obstructions and level changes in the walking environment, a guide dog that has been trained to lead persons with a vision disability and perform other tasks such as opening doors, avoiding danger, and carrying items, Braille, which is a code of raised dots that can be read using the fingertips, a monocular. This can be used to read street signs, printing on blackboards and other materials, magnifying glasses and heavy lenses. These are used to read print, a screen reader, which works with a computer and provides audible reading of what is on the screen, and smartphones with applications to read text, recognize photos, and magnify print. Here are some tips for interacting with customers with vision disabilities. Speak normally, be patient and friendly. Offer assistance, but wait until the person accepts your offer or makes a request. When offering to guide someone through unfamiliar surroundings, offer your elbow and walk slowly. You may verbally advise of obstacles or indicate when coming up to a door or walkway. Offer to describe goods and services. When providing written material, offer to read or summarize it, and if you need to leave the customer to get something, let them know where you are going and when you will return. Working as a cashier at a bakery, you are primarily responsible for taking orders and payments from customers. All the menu items are conveniently located on a chalkboard above your cash desk so customers can read their options and make a selection. Today, a man holding a white cane walks in by himself. As he approaches the counter, you think your normal greeting of, "Hello, what can I get for you today?" might not be sufficient. What should you do? A. Automatically assume the customer requires extra help and start listing options for what they can order off the menu. Or B. Stick to your normal greeting. However, if they are not sure what to order, offer to read and describe the items on the menu. The appropriate answer is B. Do not assume the individual with vision loss will be unaware of the items on the menu or require extra assistance. The customer might know exactly what he or she would like. If the customer asks for help or seems confused, you should provide extra assistance by offering to read the items off the menu or asking the customer for their preferences. Remember, if you offer assistance, always wait for the person to accept your offer before proceeding. Similar to other disabilities, there are varying degrees of hearing loss, ranging from problems in distinguishing certain frequencies, sounds, or words, to complete hearing loss. A person who is deaf or hard of hearing may not be able to use a public telephone, understand speech in a noisy environment, or pronounce words clearly enough to be understood by strangers. These individuals may use assistive devices to communicate, but it may be difficult to recognize a person with a hearing disability. Some barriers individuals who are deaf or hard of hearing may face include not hearing others approaching them, not responding to alarms or other emergency situations, and not understanding speech in a noisy environment. Some of the types of assistive devices your customers who are deaf or hard of hearing might use or need include a hearing aid, a battery-powered device which uses a microphone to send sound waves through the ear canal, a teletypewriter, or TTY, transmits from one phone to another through typed communication that is visually displayed, message relay service, which allows communication with organizations or people who do not have access to a TTY with someone who does, hearing ear dog, that is trained to alert the customer of sounds such as fire alarms, doorbells, ringing telephones, and yelling, and a sign language interpreter, a support person who will translate the conversation into sign language for the customer and sign language into speech for those who do not know sign language. Some tips for interacting with customers who are deaf or hard of hearing are: make sure the customer sees you and knows that you are communicating with them. in emergency situations, assist the customer in recognizing and responding to the emergency. If you cannot speak in sign language, offer a paper and pen so you can write notes back and forth to share information. Persons using a hearing aid may find it difficult to hear in a noisy environment, so you may want to suggest moving to a quieter location. You work as a sales associate in a child's clothing store. On a busy Saturday afternoon, you are approached by an elderly woman for help. She asks you for a certain outfit she is trying to find for her granddaughter. Due to the store being noisy, when you respond, she asks you to repeat the information and brings her ear forward. What should you do? A. Suggest moving to a quieter part of the store and speak clearly when explaining where the outfit may be. Offer to bring her to the item. Or B. Because the store is busy, just speak louder into her ear and point at certain items when speaking so she knows where the outfit is. The appropriate response is A. Remember, if an individual who is hard of hearing is struggling with the noise level in an environment, offering them a quieter place to have a conversation will help. In addition, it is important to speak clearly and directly at them. Never yell. Excellent customer service means making sure the customer is met with patience and treated respectfully. Deaf-blindness is a combination of hearing and vision loss that results in a person experiencing difficulty accessing information and performing daily activities. Some persons with deaf-blindness will have some ability to see or hear, while others will have neither, and instead rely on other senses. Deaf-blindness interferes with communication, learning, orientation, and mobility. People who are deaf-blind communicate using any combination of sign language systems, including Braille, telephone devices, and communication boards, and often use the services of an intervener to relay information, facilitate auditory and visual information, and act as a sighted guide. The intervener is trained to use sign language that involves touching the individual's hand in a two-hand manual alphabet, or fingerspelling. Some barriers individuals who are deaf-blind might face include accessing information, maneuvering around tight spaces or stairwells, and communicating needs or questions. Some of the types of assistive devices your customers who are deaf-blind might use or need include an intervener or a support person who assists with communication, communication boards, print on paper, and portable white and blackboards. Some tips for serving deaf-blind customers are: understand that communication can take some time and have patience. Ask what would make the client most comfortable and respect their needs, and avoid sudden movements or touching the individual that may catch them off guard, unless it is an emergency. Physical disabilities can also come in many forms and degrees of severity. The most visible would include a person using a wheelchair or persons with amputations. However, many physical disabilities are not visible or may be episodic in nature. For example, persons who have arthritis, heart disease, or lung disease may not show visible signs most of the time, but occasionally suffer from their disabilities. Types of assistive devices persons with physical disabilities might use or need include a wheelchair, scooter, or walker. These are devices designed to help the individual move around. Prosthetic devices. These are designed to treat an injury or disease and replace a part of the body. And oxygen monitors and tanks. These ensure the person is receiving the proper amount of oxygen. Here are some tips for serving customers with physical disabilities. Always ask before touching or moving any assistive devices. Ensure your environment is clear and free of obstacles that could make it difficult for a customer to pass. If you are providing extended customer service, consider pulling up a chair and talking to the customer at eye level. And if shaking hands is a customer service standard, offer to shake hands with a customer who has a prosthetic hand just as you would anyone else. As you are walking towards the elevator in your building, you notice that your coworker is assisting a man in a wheelchair into the elevator. Your coworker pushes the individual in first, leaving him facing the back wall. As you enter the elevator, your coworker, who is facing the elevator door, proceeds to have a conversation with you. What should you do in this situation? A. Have a conversation with your coworker and include the individual in the wheelchair. Or B. Participate in the conversation, but address the person in the wheelchair and ask if they would like to be rotated so they can face the elevator doors. The appropriate response is B. Remember to always respect the dignity of an individual with a disability. Positioning a wheelchair so a person is facing a wall goes against that principle. In this situation, you should ask to reposition the individual, apologize, and make sure to include them in your conversation. Also, follow up with your coworker by having a discussion regarding respectfully positioning someone in a wheelchair. An individual could have speech or language impairments resulting from conditions such as cerebral palsy, hearing loss, stroke, or other conditions that make it difficult to clearly pronounce words or communicate using written or spoken language. Some barriers individuals with speech or language impairments might face include difficulties pronouncing words and sudden slurring or stuttering, and complications when they need to express themselves or ask for help. Some types of assistive devices your customers with speech or language impairments might use or need would include a screen reader, a smartphone with applications to read text, print on paper, and portable whiteboards and blackboards. Tips for providing customer service to persons with speech or language impairments include: if you don't understand, it is okay to ask a person to repeat the information, and you can ask closed-ended questions, inviting a yes or no response to help ensure you understand what the customer is saying. You work at a help desk in an international airport. A customer approaches you and states that even though they've been searching for an hour, they can't seem to find their terminal. As they are speaking to you, you realize they have a speech impairment that makes it difficult to understand them. When you try to explain where they should be headed, you realize they do not comprehend. What should you do? A. Speak more slowly so that the customer can understand. Also provide them with a map that includes markings of where they should be headed. Or B. Speak louder and slower so the customer can understand. Also point them in the direction they should be heading. The appropriate response is A. Customers with speech or language impairments may require extra time and support. This means that to provide excellent customer service, you must ensure you are being patient, speaking more slowly but not louder, and never cutting the individual off. In this scenario, you can provide the customer with a visual aid, such as a map, where you can display exactly where the customer should be headed. In addition, you or another coworker should offer to walk the individual to their terminal if the customer would like that. Now we will move on and discuss mental health disabilities. Oftentimes you will not be aware that you are dealing with a person who has a mental health disability, and it will not affect the way you provide your products or services. However, you may encounter an individual who is in crisis or is struggling, so you need to know how to assist them. Mental health disabilities can include anxiety, depression, anger, fear, hearing voices, memory loss, and seeing things that aren't there. Some barriers individuals with mental health disabilities might face include increased anxiety and sudden mood swings, hearing voices and feeling things that are not present, and poor concentration and memory. Types of assistive devices your customers might use or need would include a service animal that is trained to reduce anxiety, remind the customer of medication times, and warn of potential situations, a support person who will help with communication, completing complex forms and documents, and moving around environments that are crowded and noisy, and smartphones with applications to record information or take and store pictures. Here are some tips to consider when providing customer service to those with mental health disabilities. Remember that listening skills are important, as you need to understand the issue to know how you can offer help. Ask how you can help and try to work with the individual to find a solution, and be confident, patient, and reassuring. Because mental health disabilities are often invisible, it is hard to put forth a scenario that can act as an example. However, mental health is relatable to all of us. Let's consider anxiety. Public speaking, handling work and home pressures, having difficult conversations, and doing things outside of our comfort zone can bring on uncomfortable feelings or stress for a majority of us. Luckily, most of these feelings pass once the task is complete. Individuals with mental health disorders, however, may deal with constant anxiety that is intense and produces strong feelings of fear, distress, worry, stress, and confusion for no obvious reason. This can make a daily task seem next to impossible. Learning how to provide customer service that supports each customer and makes them feel valued and welcome is just one way to assist in reducing symptoms of anxiety. A person with an intellectual disability may have difficulty with understanding spoken and written information, conceptual information, perception of sensory information, and memory. Barriers that individuals with intellectual disabilities may face include difficulties understanding written documents or handouts, confusion when large, quick amounts of information are shared, and memory and concentration. Types of assistive devices your customers might use or need include communication boards, a support person to assist with handling daily tasks, communication, and socialization, and speech-generating devices to communicate what the customer needs. Tips for customer service when working with individuals with intellectual disabilities include: be prepared to explain and provide examples regarding information. Remember that unless you are informed otherwise, the person can make their own decisions. Be patient and verify your understanding. And provide information in smaller sections. A woman with an intellectual disability walks into a doctor's office with her mother. They both approach the medical receptionist. The woman states that she is in to get a prescription from the doctor. The medical receptionist ignores the woman and automatically starts talking to her mother. What did the receptionist do wrong? A. Nothing. Because the woman has an intellectual disability and has brought in her mother as a support person, the receptionist can ask for her mother's opinion. Or B. The receptionist is assuming that the woman cannot make her own decisions based on the fact she has an intellectual disability. The appropriate answer is B. The receptionist is wrong in assuming that the woman cannot make her own decisions. Persons with intellectual disabilities have the freedom and ability to make their own choices. It is a principle of independence. Many people with disabilities prefer to do things their own way, at their own pace, and make their own decisions and choices. When providing customer service, it is crucial to provide respect in the form of independence. Learning disabilities include a range of disorders that affect verbal and nonverbal information acquisition, retention, understanding, and processing. People with a learning disability have average or above average intelligence, but take in and process information and express knowledge in different ways. Learning disabilities can result in difficulties in reading, problem solving, time management, wayfinding, and information processing. Some barriers individuals with learning disabilities might face include understanding written documents or handouts, understanding vague directions, memory and concentration, making quick decisions, and counting money and giving correct change. Some of the types of assistive devices your customers might use or need include calculators to help with understanding costs and ensuring the correct change is given, tape recorders to record information or play back pre-recorded messages, and scanning or reading technology that can take pictures of products and provide additional information. Learning disabilities are generally invisible and the ability to function varies greatly. Always remember to respond to any requests for verbal information, offer assistance to fill in forms, and be courteous, and allow extra time to complete tasks if necessary. Maria goes out to dinner with a group of colleagues after work. She has a learning disability that is not recognized, but sometimes makes her take longer to place her order. During dinner, the group members all discuss and decide on what they want to order. The waitress goes around the table asking each person, "What can I get you?" Maria becomes so focused on the conversation and the orders that are being placed that when it comes to her turn, she gets startled and does not respond quickly. How should the waitress approach the situation? A. The waitress should stop and wait patiently until Maria can place her order. Or B. The waitress should move along the table and take other orders and then return to Maria at the end. This will give her a few extra minutes to place her order. The appropriate answer is A. The waitress should stop taking orders and wait patiently until Maria can place her order. She can also offer extra assistance to Maria in terms of menu options or recommendations. This assistance should be offered in a way such that Maria can accept or decline kindly. Any repetitive questioning can also make Maria confused and stressed, which may cause her to take longer to respond. The waitress can also choose to leave the table for a few minutes and return to take Maria's order. If the waitress continues to take the orders on the table and then returns to Maria, she may find Maria more confused and startled. Customer service can take many forms. It can be in person, over the phone, through the internet, or even service delivery at a client's home. Depending on the method of delivery, service may have to be adjusted in order to address a person's specific type of disability. When speaking with customers by phone, you don't have the opportunity to visibly identify persons with disabilities, although some types of disabilities may be apparent. Good customer service should apply to all individuals, whether in person or over the phone. Some customer service tips include: speak normally, don't shout, and listen carefully. Avoid interrupting the customer or interjecting to finish sentences. Patiently wait while the customer finishes their thought. And politely ask the person to repeat information if you do not understand them. Regardless of where customer service is happening, it should be professional, respectful, and dignified. Some customer service tips when delivering at-home service include: confirm when you will arrive in advance. Be patient. It may take the customer longer to answer the door, retrieve their money, or accept goods. Handle customer service in the same manner that you would at a place of business. Introduce yourself clearly, including what company you are from. Offer assistance, such as, "Would you like me to put this on the table?" And if you do need to move any of the customer's items, tell them what you are doing and why, and ensure that everything is returned to how it was when you arrived. If you are unable to complete the service, explain what happened, when you will return, and leave contact information with the customer. In summary, it is important to remember that all customers should be treated equally, with patience and respect. This is much easier to do when you understand how to provide assistance and communicate with individuals with different types of disabilities. This section has provided tips for increasing customer service levels and suggested ways to offer assistance while allowing individuals to maintain their dignity and independence. Before moving on to the next section, let's review some key points. If a customer cannot understand me, I should speak slower and louder. True or false? The correct answer is false. Although you should speak more slowly at times to help with comprehension, you should only speak louder if the customer asks you to. If someone has difficulty understanding, speaking louder will not help the situation. Try rephrasing the information, and try to break it up into smaller pieces to be delivered one step at a time. When providing customer service over the phone, it is easy to recognize customers with disabilities. True or false? The correct answer is false. It is not always easy to recognize a customer with a disability over the phone. That is why it is important to treat all customers with respect and care. How would you feel if you needed to buy a loaf of bread but could not get down the aisle to reach the product because you were in a wheelchair? What if you were a person with a physical disability who spent 3 hours getting ready to go to a business, only to arrive and find out it was closed? Individuals with disabilities face challenges every day that can and should be removed to make Ontario inclusive for everyone. In this section, you will learn customer service principles, customer service basics, handling difficult situations, dealing with service disruptions, and responding to customer feedback. Knowing what to say and how to act is the key to balancing good customer service with the core principles that allow persons with disabilities to fully integrate into society. Customer service means treating everyone fairly and equally, as well as responding effectively to each customer's needs. Always start by asking, "How can I help you?" Let's review a few common scenarios. When a customer arrives with a support person, it is best practice to speak directly to the support person in order to assist the customer. True or false? The correct response is false. You should always direct your conversation to the customer and not to the support person. If a customer arrives with a walking stick or guide dog, I should offer to go and get the product for them. True or false? The correct response is false. This goes against the core principle of independence. As with any customer, you should offer assistance and wait to hear if or what you can do to assist. It is rare that I encounter a customer with a disability in my workplace. True or false? The correct response is false. According to Statistics Canada, at least 1.85 million people in Ontario have a disability, which is 1 in 7 people. By 2026, that number will increase to 1 in 5 Ontarians. Assuming that you can visually recognize customers with a disability is stereotypical, as many disabilities are non-visible. Instead, develop an approach to service that will give all customers the same level of professionalism and respect. If you answered any of the previous questions incorrectly, you aren't alone. Many people struggle with finding the right way to serve customers with disabilities. This training component was designed to walk you through various scenarios to ensure you are delivering professional customer service in a manner that works for every customer. Learning to recognize when pity, ignorance, or preconceived notions are impacting how you respond to situations is the first step to removing barriers. Before you begin learning about essential customer service skills, let's first define the word customers. When we hear the word customer, our first response is to think about individuals visiting our organization and accessing our products and services. However, the term customer has much broader definition. Customers can be colleagues asking for assistance, volunteers working within the company, partners, children and other relatives stopping by the workplace, along with individuals accessing goods and services. Depending on your organization, your customers will be different. For example, a college or university would consider its students as customers. A hospital or medical facility would consider its patients as customers. A church or other place of worship would consider its members as customers, and a community-based program would consider its participants as customers. As we discussed earlier in this course, under accessibility legislation, employees and organizations must consistently apply 4 principles: dignity, independence, integration, and equal opportunity. These principles should be considered basic requirements and become a standard for service. Over the next few slides, we will review each principle statement in more detail. Dignity is the innate right to respect and ethical treatment. Providing service with dignity means that every customer will be treated with respect and will receive the same level of service, quality, and convenience. Independence is not relying on another or others for aid or support. Providing independence to all customers will mean each customer is given the freedom to do things on their own without interference or unnecessary help offered to expedite the process. Integration is the incorporation of individuals as equals into society, or an organization of individuals from different groups. Incorporating integration into your organization will mean that all customers are able to access goods and services in the same way, free from separation and barriers. Equal opportunity is the absence of discrimination. Ensuring that customer service is provided in a manner that creates equal opportunity does not necessarily mean providing the exact same service every single time, but rather recognizing and adapting service to ensure each customer is given the same value and quality of service. All customers should be approached in the same manner. Body language can say a lot without verbally saying anything. You should never fold your arms, sigh, roll your eyes, or turn away from the customer. Stand facing the customer with your arms open, smile, and make eye contact to show that you are eager to start a conversation. On the next slide, we will review the top 10 essential customer service skills. Some of these skills might not be a part of your job, but it is important to think about other situations in your day-to-day life or in the future when these skills may come into play. Rather than think, "This doesn't affect me or how I do my job," think about situations you might find yourself or a coworker in and where you can offer help. Also, ask yourself, how would I want to be treated? The first essential skill is to introduce yourself. This should be the very first thing that any professional does when providing a service. Offering your name builds rapport and changes the tone of the conversation from transactional to supportive. Assuming the existing customer will remember you, that they can read your name tag, or that they can visually see you, can build a barrier that does not need to exist. If you know the customer by name, acknowledge them by saying, "Hi John, it's nice to see you again. My name is Jane. How are you today?" Or even simply, "Hello, my name is Jane." The second essential skill is to speak naturally, clearly, and directly. Talking loudly, quickly, or to the wrong person can set an interaction off to a bad start. Approach all conversations in the exact same manner. Speak naturally and in an appropriate tone, not too quietly or too loudly. Speak clearly, pronouncing all words and syllables, and focus the conversation directly on the customer. Some customers may come in with service animals, support persons, or assistive devices. Being distracted or focusing the conversation on the wrong individual, such as an intervener, is disrespectful. Do a quick assessment to determine who your customer is and focus all service directly on them. The third essential skill is to make eye contact. Making eye contact is the most important nonverbal message you can send. Eye contact shows respect, trust, and confidence. When you are welcoming the customer, make eye contact and smile. Throughout the conversation, you may allow your eye contact to drift off to the side or break. However, you should always return to making eye contact to the person you are speaking with. To not make eye contact sends a message of disregard or can make the customer feel unimportant. Using simple everyday language should be a standard practice and is essential customer service skill 4. Assuming your customer will understand complex words or current slang can make a conversation unnecessarily difficult. Customers could be new to Canada, have learning disabilities, or not be aware of business terminology. The keep it simple approach not only delivers quick, convenient, and clear customer service, but also ensures that customers are provided with the information they need the first time. Essential Customer Service Skill 5 is to ask one question at a time. It can be human nature to want to ask all the questions we have at once, in order to ensure we don't forget anything. However, asking many questions at once can be overwhelming and stressful. Asking one question at a time means the customer can reflect and provide you with a complete answer before moving on. It is okay to be expressive while you communicate. However, your hands or any objects should not be placed in front of your face, especially your mouth, when speaking with others. This is Essential Customer Service Skill number 6. Often, customers who are hard of hearing will rely on reading lips while listening to what is being said. Covering your face adds an unneeded barrier to service. Essential Customer Service Skill 7 is to be calm, polite, and respectful. Don't speak louder when someone is having problems understanding what is being said, or become short with a customer if you are agitated and flustered, especially if the customer cannot understand or provide direction. In these situations, remind yourself that if you are feeling agitated, so is the customer. Take a deep breath and reapproach the situation. Smile and apologize for the misunderstanding. If something isn't working, try to change your approach so that the service you are providing works best for the customer. This is Essential Customer Service Skill number 8, readapting your approach as necessary. For example, you may find it easier to write notes back and forth to the person. Try asking yes or no questions, providing descriptive details when giving instructions, changing what you say, and changing how you say it. Essential Customer Service Skill 9 is to take the required time. Do not interrupt and happily explain information to the customer as necessary. Some customers might need more time to get their message across to you. Do not interrupt them even if you think you know what they want. Let them finish the thought before responding. If needed, re-explain what you were saying and break the information up into smaller sections to allow time for processing what is being said. Don't get frustrated. Remain calm, polite, and respectful. The final essential skill involves asking the customer how you can help. It may be tempting to continue on and assume you have the solution. However, it is much more efficient to ask the customer what you can do. Some customers might require written instructions, enlarged text, screen reading software, closed captioning, real-time translation, teletypewriter operators, pictures or symbols, or communication boards or cards to help them communicate. If this situation presents itself, work with the customer to make the communication easier. Don't be afraid to make mistakes and ask for help. Customers will appreciate your willingness to work with them. When customers arrive with service animals, in the majority of cases this will be a dog. However, there have been cases of service animals that are monkeys, parrots, and other animals that offer critical assistance to persons with disabilities. Service animals offer a variety of forms of assistance, including a travel guide, carrying cargo, fetching products, opening doors, ringing doorbells, activating elevator buttons, pulling wheelchairs, helping avoid falls, warning of an impending seizure, protecting the person in medical situations, calling 911, turning on lights, getting help, and reducing panic and fear. Rules for handling service animals include: never separate the customer and their service animal. Don't touch, pet, or talk to the animal when the animal is out with the customer. It is working and should not be distracted. And do not feed or offer treats to the animal. Over the next few slides, we will review some common questions about service animals and recommended actions to take in each situation. What if I cannot clearly identify that the animal is a service animal? For example, it doesn't have a special harness. If you are not sure if the animal is a service animal, ask the owner. Customers who need service animals should have paperwork to support the need. It is okay to politely ask for this information. What if the animal becomes disruptive or out of control? It is the owner's responsibility to maintain control. If the animal is becoming disruptive, ask the customer if you can do anything to assist them in regaining control. Remember that you should never touch the animal. What if the customer asks me to provide water to their animal? You may provide water. Ask the owner if they have a water dish, or provide one of your own. Depending on the situation, the service animal may have been working for a long period of time and needs refreshment. What if other customers are approaching the animal to pet it? Depending on the situation, the customer might not even realize this is happening or about to happen. Politely approach the other customer and explain that they should ask permission before petting the animal. Never yell or scream at the approaching customer. The approaching customer might not even realize that the proper conduct is to ask for permission first. Are there locations or areas in which the service animal should not be permitted? Legislation provides strict guidelines around animals and food. However, service animals, because of the nature of their work, are permitted in locations where food is served, sold, and offered for sale. They are not permitted in locations where food is manufactured or processed. What if another customer is severely allergic to the animal? It is your duty to accommodate both customers. You would need to develop an accommodation plan that will work for both individuals. Consider talking to both of them to determine if they can be in separate areas while still receiving the same service and access. Some customers may arrive with a support person who assists them with accessing services. A support person can be a paid worker, volunteer, family member, or a friend, and does not necessarily require any special training or certification to offer support. Support persons offer a wide range of assistance, including interpretation, speaking on behalf of the customer, note-taking, reading, guiding or directing the customer, transportation, personal care, and communication. General tips for working with a support person include: introduce yourself to both the customer and the support person. Talk directly to the customer, even if the support person is responding. Address the customer appropriately. Don't have side conversations with the support person. Get permission from the customer prior to discussing confidential information in front of the support person. Provide any written materials to both the customer and the support person. And never separate the customer and their support person. What if I don't know if the person is there to offer support? If the customer doesn't introduce their support person, it is okay to ask, "Is this your support person?" However, only ask after you have attempted to provide service. Approach a customer and apply the 10 rules for essential customer service. Chances are, this will become apparent through the course of your interaction with the customer. Can I charge a support person to attend a paid event? The fee or fare must be waived for a support person when the following conditions are met. An organization requires that a support worker must be present for reasons of health and safety, and the person being supported has been consulted and agreed to this requirement. What if I need to discuss confidential information? Always obtain permission from the customer before discussing information, especially financial information, in front of the support person. Some customers may wish for the support person to step away during the discussion. Customers might also need assistive devices to help them access services. These devices help customers to do everyday tasks such as moving, communicating, reading, or lifting by eliminating barriers. Here are a few examples of devices that could be used: wheelchairs, walkers, listening devices, portable oxygen tanks, laptops, canes, smartphones, and hearing aids. General tips for working with assistive devices include: never refuse to work with the device, don't stare at the device, ensure the customer and assistive device have the appropriate amount of space, don't block, knock, or bump into assistive devices, and offer assistance if the customer is having trouble working with their device. Service disruptions happen for many reasons and can cause serious upset, hardship, and disappointment to all of your customers. Responding to and handling service disruptions in a way that supports and informs customers is important for maintaining solid relationships and offering great service. Service disruptions can include broken elevators, canceled programs, unplanned closures, construction barriers, websites going down, sick employees, and inaccessible parking. Disruptions should be immediately communicated using a variety of methods. You should indicate when the service will be restored and suggest alternatives to be used during the disruption. Tips for notifying customers of disruptions in service include posting throughout the building, at the entrances and at the source of the disruption, providing email notification to regular customers, phoning customers who have scheduled appointments to notify them of the disruption, posting on the company's website, and airing a radio announcement when feasible. Let's review some common questions and recommended actions to be taken. What should I do if the customer arrives but cannot access service because of the disruption? Approach the customer, apologize for the inconvenience, and determine if an accommodation plan can be implemented to support them. What if the customer is angry about the disruption? Apologize and acknowledge their feelings. Ask if they have email or another method of communication that you could use to contact them if it happens again in the future. What should I do if a service disruption happens while I am working? Any service disruption should take top priority. Ensure that no one is trapped or stuck because of the disruption. Notify the proper person, companies, and potential clients of the disruption. Post visible and easy-to-read signs at all entrances and at the disruption site which notify visitors of the issue. Update the website and contact scheduled customers. Accepting and responding to customer feedback is a part of any service position and should be handled respectfully and professionally. After all, customer comments can lead to improved service, increased business, and a reduction in complaints. A variety of feedback methods means that all customers will have the opportunity to share suggestions and issues. Customer feedback methods can include in person, by telephone, online, in writing, by email, and through the use of a support person. If a customer approaches you and would like to offer feedback, explain the methods available to them and ask which option would work best for them. If they ask to supply the information in person, it is important not to get defensive or upset about the comments they are sharing. Create a company-wide customer feedback form to ensure you are asking the right questions and recording all the information. Complete the form while a customer is sharing information. The customer may also have a support person assisting them in this process. You will then be able to read back what was written to ensure comprehension and build trust that the feedback will be submitted. After the customer has reviewed and agreed with the statements, let them know the process for addressing feedback and next steps. If you can do something to immediately address and resolve the issue, take the necessary actions. However, only act after the customer has shared all their feedback and approach it in a "let's work together" rather than a "you could do this" attitude. When a customer calls in to provide feedback, thank them for the call and then proceed to use your company-wide customer feedback form. Don't attempt to explain or resolve the call right away, but listen attentively and take notes. Generally, when a customer calls in to share feedback, they want to have the opportunity to explain their feelings. Cutting them off or making suggestions before they are done can result in further aggravation along with discounting their feelings. After you have formally written up the complaint and explained the next steps to the customer, you can collaborate on solutions with the customer in order to help resolve the issue. If your company has a public website, consideration should be given to adding an online customer feedback form that customers can complete at their own pace. This online feedback form will capture all the customer data and send it to the appropriate person to track, respond to, and resolve. You should always respond to customer feedback in a timely manner, even if you don't yet know of the solution. A process should be developed in which written feedback is collected daily and responded to within a set period of time. If your organization decides that feedback must be reviewed and responded to within 72 hours, for example, this should be clearly indicated on feedback forms. Letting the customer know that their efforts to provide feedback will be taken seriously and handled efficiently will go a long way to building long-term customer relationships. To summarize, recognizing and removing personal barriers and preconceived notions means you are treating customers equally and with dignity. Clearly communicating service disruptions can prevent customers from spending valuable time arriving at your company only to find out they cannot access what they need. Accepting customer feedback in a variety of ways means that all customers can provide valuable insight into how your organization can improve. Before concluding this course, here are some review questions to test your understanding. Sometimes customers can be negative. When this happens, it is okay to ignore their feedback. True or false? If you answered false, you are correct. You should never discount a customer's feedback, even if it is negative. There is something that can be learned from all feedback received. How I approach a customer has nothing to do with the service I provide them. True or false? If you answered false, you are correct. Approaching a customer in an appropriate manner can set the tone for the entire interaction. If it starts off on the wrong foot, it can be very difficult to provide excellent service as the customer may not believe that you are being genuine. We've reached the end of Accessibilities for Ontarians with Disabilities Act, or AODA, customer service training. Now that you have learned about the legislation and its requirements, the next step is to review your company-specific policies regarding accessible customer service. Remember, treating everyone equally does not mean treating everyone the same. It means adapting your approach as needed so that each person receives the same benefits from your service. Thank you for your participation.